I'm Toru Fujibayashi. I was born in Vancouver, February 23rd, 1942, and shortly after that, we were interned into the valley. So all my roots are in this valley and in Slocan, and I grew up here as a child. And my dad was, because he was younger and born in Japan, he came, I think, to Vancouver when he was still a young man. He and others were sent to, I guess, a camp, a camp with guards in Angler, Ontario, where they were behind wires and had red target circles on their back.
The Japanese with big teeth and of course slitty eyes, slanty eyes, and they were. I remember all I remember was like airplane pilots, Japanese kamikaze pilots, you know, the pictures. But these people weren't like that at all.
When the Japanese came, it was a great shock. We had heard about Pearl Harbor.
I remember them gathering around the radio, and it was all talk and slander, you know, and prejudice.
The news reports were that, you know, how bad the Japanese were.
But they had radio contact with Japan. That's why they shipped them all up here.
The Japs were coming to Slocan.
Some of them were on their boats down the coast, fishermen, and the older guys, and they wouldn't get off the boat. They shot them right there.
Well, we were terrified. Fortunately, my mother, when we were walking home, said, "There are good Japanese and there are bad Japanese." She said, "We're fighting the bad Japanese and the good Japanese are coming." And first of all, they sent all the young men in to build the houses for them. And all the hotels downtown, they fixed them all up to put the people in. And they were singing and working away, and they were so handsome. Oh, we fell in love with them.
We went, when the Japanese carpenters first came, they were the ones that came first. We went downtown, and I imagine I was with some other kids, and we went up to talk to them, to see them and look at them, and they spit at us because they were so angry at being taken away and shipped up there, I guess.
I helped them pack their suitcases from the train up to the hotels, the old hotels that were here, and they just more or less, families of them, and just pushed them in. I was here when the first train load come to the station right down by where you go to the boat ramp is now. There was 6 passenger cars with little black heads sticking out everywhere.
Well, that's when the Japanese first come in, and the train was coming in, and I'd been down in the lower field there hunting deer, and I shot a deer and was dragging the deer across the field when the train went by, and all them Japanese were waving at us there when when they went by on the train.
They didn't want us to be frightened of them, so they encouraged us, you know, and talked to us and everything. And we were just so thrilled. So that was my introduction to the Japanese.
Japanese were herded into Lemon Creek, Slocan, and to New Denver and around there.
I felt collective guilt for what we were doing to them when I was 13 years old. You know, I thought, this is a horrible thing that we're doing to these people. She's treating them like a bunch of cattle. They were loading them into the trains, you know.
Like they took everything away from them. And They were nice people. There was nothing wrong with them. They, like, I didn't agree with that.
You know, you're still a dirty Jap, you're a yellow belly, or, you know, things like that. That happens, and it just happens.
It was a cold year, 42 and 43. It got down to 30, 35 below here, and that's very unusual. And they didn't have enough wood, and they're living in tents. Some of them actually died of exposure, you know. Yeah.
Got 5 feet of snow that winter, and they were living in tents inside the skating rink. And they, you know, they were just freezing to death.
It snowed 18 inches one night, and when we went to school this morning, every tent was on the ground and you could see wiggles in there.
They were piling them up and burning cordwood. They had cordwood outside there, and they were burning them right there, and cremating them.
But then there got to be lots more. Bay Farm was full of them. Lemon Creek was, you know, all houses. But it was quite the thing to see, you know. They brought in train load after train load after train load.
They'd pick the greens and beets and the potatoes and carrots from the garden and hitch up a wagon and a horse, and we'd go to Lemon Creek and Slocan, and they'd sell these vegetables to Japanese. I remember that.
There was a railroad track here. The tracks that led down to the wharf and the slip. You know, a black steam engine, a coal-driven steam engine back then. And it'd come lumbering down here and join up with the barge. And the trains would go on it and it'd go on to the barge. And the tugboat would take it up the lake. But there used to be a beautiful wooden wharf that went there, right down here, that as kids we used to go down there and fish. The barge and the dock, the boat was all here. This was the main street when I was a kid in the 40s and 50s, and it was really gravelly and gets dusty there. And I think at one time there's a hotel right here that when we first came to Slocan that we lived in it for a while too. Just think I grew up 17 years with that as my neighbor, as being here, and it's the first time I've really looked at it that closely.
The river was full of rafts all the way from Lemon Creek right to Slocan, side by side rafts. So they got out there and they caught all the suckers and squawfish, they ate them all.
No, the Japanese people didn't seem any different to me as a child, as a young person.
Yeah, and they didn't look like the pictures you see of them either that we used to see of them in, you know, propaganda during the war.
And yes, we had friends, Japanese friends and English friends, and we had both Dokubor and English mixture here in Winla. And we played together. Life was good.
I only remember them as living in town and just being ordinary people.
Even as a young person, I realized that what happened to the Japanese Canadians was a result of war, and it was not a good thing.
And I would say that the bad Japanese were soldiers, and I don't think they were any worse than our soldiers. That's just the way, how terrible war is.
It would be wonderful to be able to say, I've uncovered some peace in myself, and how could I help with that towards other people?